Good morning. It is August 2nd. I don't know what day of our summer trip it is, but we are currently in Moab, Utah. After leaving Canyonlands National Park Island in the Sky section, we returned to Moab and went to the KOA. This morning we got up and got breakfast at the KOA, and now we're on the road heading toward Arches National Park. So it should be an interesting day, like always, and we'll see what happens. Like always, we first stopped at the visitor center to get our bearings, learn about the park, and refill our water bottles. We then got on the road and ventured into the park. Though we could see many interesting sights from the road, we drove to the end of the park road to the popular Devil's Garden area. This trail takes visitors through sheer sandstone walls, desert landscape, and to many of the park's famous arches. We first stopped at the Pine Tree Arch. These fantastic arches were created by tectonic uplift and erosion, leaving sandstone fins and arches. Stephen, what do you think of your first arch?
Well, an arch.
Yep.
It's a way to do an arch.
Next, we saw the nearby tunnel arch before continuing down the trail into the impressive landscape arch. We decided to first follow the primitive or less developed arm of the trail. This part of the trail was good for seeing desert flora and fauna. It also winds through the impressive sandstone fins.
Yes!
We eventually ended up at Private Arch. Continuing on our way, we arrived at the northernmost formation on the trail, Dark Angel. Nearby, we found Double Arch, obviously named for its double arches. Though the temperature was starting to rise, we continued our hike and enjoyed the views of the desert landscape. The next major arch that we encountered was Navajo Arch, which provided some refreshing shade. Nearby was Partition Arch, named for the stone divider found in the arch. Finishing the trail's loop, we arrived back at Landscape Arch. We took one last good look and returned to the car. We then found some shade, rested, and ate some lunch. After seeing the nearby Skyline Arch, we hiked the trail to Sand Dune and Broken Arch. Sand Dune Arch was hidden between several large fins. We next followed the trail's loop through more fins, rocks, and the park's campground. We even took a short trail spur to Tapestry Arch. Finally, we returned to Broken Arch. So, Stephen, where are you now? And
We're at Broken Arch, which is in Arches National Park, and we're hiking back to the car.
yeah, how many miles do you think we've hiked today?
So far, 10 point, probably about 10.6.
Oh, all right. We next stopped at the Fiery Furnace Viewpoint, which overlooks an area that features maze-like narrow canyons that can only be visited as part of a ranger-led hike. From this viewpoint, we could see the window section of the park, our next destination. The window section is named for two large arches. We first went to the north window. These arches seem to be popular spots at the end of the day as the temperature drops slightly. The north arch provides a window overlooking the nearby countryside. The south arch is higher and doesn't provide the same view. We also took a look at the nearby turret arch, which features a large and small arch. From here, we could see rock formations called the Parade of Elephants and Double Arch. We then followed the primitive trail to see the windows arches from the other side. We continued on the trail and made our way toward Double Arch for a closer look. The arch is named for its impressive two-armed structure. Inside the arch, we made our way to a popular overlook spot.
Hey Steven, where are you? We're at Double Arches, which is in the Windows region of Arches National Park. And we're sitting on, well, not on top, but
Inside
of one. And we're looking towards the sun, which is to the west.
Yep.
And our car is that direction.
Yeah, we just have to make it down from here.
Yeah.
After returning to the car, we stopped at the nearby Garden of Eden overlook, Hamrock, and Pothole Arch. As the sun began to set, we made our way out of the park. Good morning. It is August 3rd. It is our last day of activities really for our summer trip. Last night after leaving Arches National Park, we returned to our KOA and turned in. And after a hot night and a night of lots of wind and some rain, a thunderstorm, so we got up this morning and packed up our stuff, and we're going to get breakfast, and after that we're going to go back into Arches and finish up stopping at all the little overlooks and finish up a couple hikes, and after that we'll figure out what we'll be doing. So it should be a good last day before we end up in Grand Junction tonight. So yeah, that's it for now. After re-entering the park, we made our way to the Wolf Ranch area to start the trail up to Delicate Arch. Near the start of the trail is an old cabin, all that remains of the old Wolf Ranch. Even though it was apparent that it was going to be a very hot day, this was a very popular trail. One of the most notable features of the path was the section that makes its way up a large area of slick rock. Despite the heat, we followed the cairnstones up the rock trail and past some smaller arches, making our way to the distinctive Delicate Arch. This formation is one of the most famous and popular spots in the park. It was crowded when we arrived, since everyone wanted to get a picture next to the arch. Stephen was patient while he waited for me to get several shots of the arch. After getting some shots from an alternative angle, we started our way back down the trail, stopping to see a panel of Native American rock art. We also stopped at the upper and lower Delicate Arch viewpoints, which provided easier to access views of the famous arch. Following this, we stopped briefly at the Cache Valley Overlook, where we realized we could still see Delicate Arch. We also stopped at Panorama Point, where we could see the fiery furnace and the windows section of the park. We could even see the Balanced Rock, our next destination. At Balanced Rock, there is a short trail that takes visitors in a circle around the unique rock formation. After the hike to Delicate Arch, this was an easy walk. We continued on our way, stopping at the Petrified Dunes viewpoint, where we could see the remains of ancient sand dunes which were turned into stone. By looking in the opposite direction, we could see the Great Wall rock formation. Next, we stopped at the La Salle Mountains viewpoint. From here, you can see rock formations called the Three Gossips, the Tower of Babel, the Organ, Balanced Rock, and the La Salle Mountains. Despite the heat, we next started the Park Avenue Trail. This trail winds its way through a canyon that supposedly reminded early visitors of a New York City street. Certainly, the trail featured many skyscraper-like rock formations. Along the trail, we got a better view of the Three Gossips. The trail ends at the Courthouse Tower's viewpoint, where we could see the location of a fallen arch, the Tower of Babel, and the Organ. We then started our way back up Park Avenue and returned to the parking area. On our way out of the park, we made a brief stop at the Moab Fault Overlook. From here, you can see the park entrance and the visitor center. After leaving the park, we ate lunch near the Colorado River. To finish out our Arches experience, we hiked the short Courthouse Wash Trail, found outside the park. This trail leads to an impressive Native American rock art panel. Finished at Arches, we drove north to Grand Junction, Colorado. Since we still had time in the day, we decided to stop in Colorado National Monument, a park we had visited in 2008. This park lies on the eastern edge of the Colorado Plateau, a region that features the highest concentration of national parks in the country. Our first stop was the short Otto's Trail, which leads to an overlook of Independence Monument, as well as the surrounding area. We continued on the park road to the Coke Ovens Trail. This leads to an overlook next to the rock formations named for their distinctive shape. Following this, we decided to hike the first half mile or so of the Ute Canyon Trail. This steep trail drops down into the canyon where there was a clear change in vegetation. We're in the canyon, next to the creek.
Yes. Which is assume why all this.
Yep. Behind us is fallen rock, we believe. So, all right. Well, I guess we gotta
Back to the car.
back to the car. We decided to turn around when the trail became more primitive and harder to follow. Hoping to make use of the last hour or so of daylight, we made our way to the Serpent's Trail. This trail winds its way down the plateau and provides wonderful views of the surrounding area. Here we are on the last hike of your summer 2013 trip. What did you think of the trip, and what were some of your favorite parts?
Oh, I mean, we didn't do as much as previous years, but it still was a good trip. I mean, for Mesa Verde, the balcony tour was probably the best part. At Canyonlands, you know, probably that hike that we did on the second day where we hiked down into the canyon and went through the wash and came back.
All right.
And then at Arches, probably the Devil's Garden was probably the best part, even though we got a little hot toward the end. And then at Colorado National Monument, I don't know, we went through really fast, saw a lot of stuff, you know, pretty dry. Well, until next year, I guess.
We returned to the car and to Grand Junction for the night. The next day, we returned to Manhattan.